Hi there YouTube, this is the Magnus bringing you another Total War Warhammer online ladder battle. My opponent chose the Dwarfs and I said, hey, let's try Bretonnia again. It worked last time. But definitely a different build. I brought 6 of the men-at-arms with polearms, 3 peasant bowmen, 1 Grail Knight, 2 of the trebuchets, 2 of my paladins, flying of course, the king and the damsel. And I laid it out as such, as you can see here. And my opponent, the Dwarfs here, brought a considerable army. Looks like he's got longbeards on each of his flanks and 4 dwarf warriors in between. Back behind that, he's got 2 of the Thunderers. He has a Quarreler unit. He has some nasty hammers back here, Slayers on this side. And then in the corners, he's got miners on both sides. He also brought a runesmith. He brought Ungrim Iron Fist, of course, a Thane, and lastly but not least, a cannon. So just taking a look at the way he's laid himself out here, he's pretty well protected. Probably was expecting a lot of cav. Not going to get that. But also that layout's going to help protect him from my flying forces. But initially I do notice that his cannon I do believe is not as effective as my 2 field trebuchets, and so I'm going to give them an order to move up to attack, and then I'm going to get my infantry and all of my lines facing his forces. So right away his cannon's going to be firing, not incredibly accurately there, but firing at my men just the same. So it's going to take a little bit to get everybody where I want them to be, but I don't feel hurried. I don't feel pressured. And that's one of the nice things about playing against the Dwarfs is you can be much more calculating. But then I see him start to move everything forward, and I become a little confused about his intentions. Is he going to charge? Is he just trying to close the distance for his cannon to be more effective? Not sure. So I continue to form up my lines and wait to see what he does. As you can see, the trebuchets are in full effect now, firing at his men. Right now I have the Quarrelers targeted with both of them. And as usual, you'll see me try to spread the love around and weaken as many of his units as I possibly can. I hid my flying units here in the forest so they'd be a little harder to hit. And I'm trying to keep my Grail Knights out of range of his cannon as well. Just too expensive to let him take a shot at them. Whereas my peasants, not so much. They are peasants and they're made to eat such things. So far his cannons have done okay, but nothing exciting. Whereas you can see my trebuchets had a much more meaningful impact. They're doing a really good job. Over here I start firing into this cluster. Anytime your opponent puts a bunch of guys together or a couple of guys together, it's a great time to fire off those shots. And things like Slayers and Iron Breakers, things like that, you need all the help you can get against them. So he begins to approach and form a line, but the thing that's weirding me out is his line's facing this way, it seems, and my army's right here, Chief, so not sure what that's about. I didn't know if he had some plan, like to try to wrap around part of his force. So again, I'm just going to play defense and let my artillery continue to pound on his units. This Thunder really took a beating from the trebuchets. There's another hit. Looks like one there too. So there's just not much of them left. I shift my flyers over because I notice it's making him move many units and they're getting blobbed up, which is very trebuchet friendly. So you're going to see I start targeting towards the middle of the cluster, trying to get more damage, but at the same time I'm trying to keep the flying corps out of range of any of his artillery. I mean, not artillery, I'm sorry, his Thunderers or his crossbowmen. I take a couple of shots at the Slayers, wanting to soften them up some, and they're pretty badly beat up. So you can see he's taken pretty considerable damage at this point without really being able to give much back. Now he does get a shot off on my Grail Knights and does a little bit of damage there, but I will notice that and start to pull them back again until I feel he's getting ready for an engagement. Here I start taking a few shots at his hammers, just trying to soften them up. Mission accomplished. He's shooting at my Grail Knights, and you're going to see there I lost a few units and some health. So this, this is what he should have been doing with those cannons all along, but as you can see, I keep trying to keep them out of range for him, and again he has to move his cannons. So while his cannons are moving, my trebuchets are just making it rain over here, and so I feel like that's a good position for me to be in. I've got my flyers waiting in the wing here, and then as he starts to approach more, I'm going to pull these guys up to be able to threaten his other flank. So now my bowmen begin to fire. Not super effective against the dwarfs, but they do add extra DPS, and I don't like to bring too much infantry because a lot of times the dwarfs are in a cluster and it can be hard to get all of your infantry into meaningful engagement. So I feel like the bowmen bring something to the table, and they're definitely doing damage. For a while I'm going to try focusing on the runesmith and find out that that is not a good way to use your bowman. Oh, nice hit there in the thunders, and he's still not moving forward, and I feel like by now he really should have considered doing so. But since he pushed his forces up and he kind of left his cannon out on an island, I'm going to try to make him pay for it, because these miners don't scare me at all. They have armor piercing, but other than that they're pretty non-threatening unit, and you can see my archers are firing, and since I did so much damage to his missiles, I have the missile advantage. The cannon is going to take extreme damage on the charges there, as you can see. He starts to move forces over, and I'm just going to hit him for as long as I can, as long as I feel like I can without getting hit too bad. He does fire some missiles, he brings in the miners, so now I'm going to start to clear out, but the damage is done. This cannon's already started to lose faith. So these guys are firing at me, but they're a lot smaller than they were, and finally he's going to make his approach and start hitting my line. Of course, charge defense against all, so I'm just going to hang out. I brought my cav up because now I realize there's games to be played, and the cannon was pretty severely beat up, and they haven't tried to reclaim their cannons. They may even be broken at this point. So he's kind of blobbing up here. I think he would have been better off if he pushed his infantry out to engage more of mine, but I think he's just trying to find an advantage in the middle, and that becomes more evident to me as he moves his heroes into that area. So I bring my flying corps back because I want to finish off those cannons and make sure they're not going to be a threat. And now he starts shooting at my Grail Knights, so I figured now's the time to send them in, see if we can't put a good hurting on his thunderers here and really reduce his ability to do damage. You also see my infantry over here starting to home in on his guys. Now he sends in the Slayers, who are very good against the Grail Knight, but he should have let somebody like the Hammers take the charge because they can handle it, and then brought in the Slayers, so instead they take pretty good damage. But he does hurt my Grail Knights pretty significantly, and I decide to get them out of there and try to hit the rear of his line. He gets these miners in the way. Good job of breaking about half of that charge, and you notice they don't take a whole ton of damage there, but my Grail Knights just get swamped, so not a good thing there. Back here I got rid of his cannon, so I'm just beating on his miners a bit, and then I'm going to get out of there. We've got lines of men here which I haven't committed properly, which I really need to. He sent Ungrim right into the center and is tearing apart these peasant bowmen, but I have my bowmen targeted at him, and I'm going to bring the king in to try to teach him a lesson. So he decides he doesn't want to do that, but I don't give him a choice. Smash into him and some of his dwarfs. So some good things happening there. I have my artillery focused on this huge cluster. Will it hit my own men? Absolutely. But as much as his? Not at all. Now here's something really weird, and something very useful to know. Somehow miners are great at holding down flying units. And you're just seeing the end of it. I've been trying to get those paladins out of there forever and get them into these missiles. So somehow miners are really good at pinning flying units, which doesn't make much sense because they shouldn't be high mass, but that's how it is. The king here finds himself in trouble because the paladins were supposed to join him and they haven't. I'm going to have to pull him out of there. My Grail Knights recover, so I'm going to try to help him out a bit by charging them into this giant blob he has going on here. They're going to get a pretty solid charge, a really solid charge, and punch through them and put some damage in. The king is momentarily taking a hiatus, but he will return. The paladins finally get into these missiles, and there's nothing left of these thunderers and very little left of his quarrelers. But so far it's still very balanced. I've lost infantry, I've lost some of my archers, and he successfully killed my lady. I forgot to show that, but when he got in here with Ungrim, he also did a number on the lady, so that's a problem. I don't have my debuff, which I like quite a bit, so I'm gonna have to fight him straight up for now. I don't know if he killed her or routed her. Yeah, he routed her. She's all the way back there. So now a lot of my guys are retreating. I'm starting to find myself outnumbered. The king again is in a terrible mess with all these troops. My peasant bowmen get caught, and I'm starting to have to rethink what I'm doing out here. These paladins are doing a good job, but you know, he's got a lot here. These guys have a 2-on-1 going on, and I'm having trouble using my trebuchets without killing too many of my own men. But finally I'm able to push the infantry in here, get some fear going with the king. He's going to come in here and decide to take on Ungrim 1-on-1, see what he can do. And then I set him charging out again. Just want to keep him moving. I don't want him to get pinned down, and I don't want them to be able to do a bunch of damage to him. So I'm trying to work on the runesmith and on Ungrim Iron Fist, because those are the two best things he has. Now the paladins come in, and I feel like this is going to help me turn the battle. I've got 3 really nasty guys. I've got 2 units of men-at-arms polearms, so I feel like I have effect there. But a lot of his guys are recovering that ran away, so I know I'm on a kind of a borrowed time scale here. My men that retreated are coming back into the center. These guys will be coming in shortly. I'm firing my artillery at this cluster over here because I don't have men there, so I don't have to worry about friendly fire. And now I'm really making a play for Ungrim Iron Fist. He's extremely low on health. He pops Foe Seeker to try to save his butt, but we're going to give him the old college try here, and bang, down goes Ungrim, which immediately starts shifting things in my favor. My paladins are still in good shape. The king, not so much, but he's a hard guy to nail down. And his last leadership unit here is the Thane, so we decided to put the work on him. You're going to see quickly his morale is just crushed by what he's dealing with here, and he's going to start to run, and we're going to keep pounding on him. And my volleys into this cluster has them shaken. And let's see, we're moving forward our archers to be able to help out, potentially if we have to fight this thing out over here. But I'm hoping that the volleys from my trebuchets and the death of all of his leaders and the Thane routing will do it. Instead, I bring in the paladins, though. They're going to get a nice splash into these units that are all clustered up, which I love when I have a unit that can get good penetration. The king comes slamming down. Not a lot of health left on him, but I figure it's worth the risk right now, because I feel if I break him real quick, this will be the end of the battle. You can see they are routing completely, and that's going to be the end of the battle. So another win for Bretonnia, a Pyrrhic one. So definitely a close fight. Good game to my opponent, Colbert. That was, or Colbert, if you're going with the French pronunciation. Very good fight, a lot of fun. I felt like I had to think and react a lot, which I enjoy. Let's take a look at how our units did. The field trebuchets just did fantastic. Look at that, 258 kills between the two of them. My infantry hung in there. Some of them were even able to get kills, so I was happy with that. The flying corps did extremely well, which you saw. Him taking out my damsel was just genius, because the damsel left the field way before his runesmith did, which gave him all the buff and debuff advantage. And usually that's going to win you the game. I just barely pulled this thing off. The Grail Knights, not very good. The Peasant Bowmen played a role, but I think in the future I'd rather go with more infantry, cavalry, or even throw another trebuchet out there. It's just they don't have the armor piercing to deal with dwarfs very well, with the exception of things like slayers. Taking a look at my opponent's army, his infantry struggled, his slayers did pretty well, as did the hammers, as expected. His range, not so great. Cannon, the only thing it did that I felt was of value was put it in hurting on my Grail Knights, which was a really good thing for him. The miners holding down flying units, something I've never seen before. I feel that, I don't know if that was a fluke. I want to test it, but if so, that's huge for the Dwarfs. If you know you can pin down flying with stinking miners, that could be huge. Could be a game changer in this matchup. And his Thane, Runesmith, and Ungrim Iron Fist did fantastic. So if you enjoyed the battle, you learned some stuff, or you just feel like being a nice guy or a nice lady, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. When you subscribe, you get notified. Make sure you press the little button to get notified. That way, every time I come out with a new video, it's in your hands right away. I want to thank you all for the support again. Don't forget about the contest. You can win the new DLC, the King and the Warlord. Check out that video. 2 ways to win. Take advantage. Until the next time, this is the Magnus. I'll see you on the ladder.